Jacques Neuville wasn't just another French athlete trying to make a name for himself in the global bodybuilding scene. He was one of those guys who changed the game forever. Right from the start, his aesthetic physique, flawless symmetry, and almost cinematic stage presence made him stand out anywhere he went. But before we talk about titles and trophies, it's important to understand who this man really was and how he became one of the icons of European bodybuilding. Back in the 1970s and 1980s, the sport was exploding with talent. It was the so-called golden generation, a time when competitors from all over the world were trying to break through the American dominance. And it was in this exact environment that Jacques shined. Alongside athletes like Gérard Binaud, he proved that France had its own giants ready to challenge the international aesthetic standard. What impressed people the most on stage was the constant comparison to Frank Zane, one of the greatest masters of aesthetics in bodybuilding history. Neuville carried that same muscular harmony and refined definition, traits you don't buy, you build with absolute discipline. Over time, his presence became something audiences expected. It wasn't just about muscle, it was about style, elegance, poise. People didn't look at Jacques only as a competitor, but as a reference point. And that perception only grew as his career advanced, winning fans across multiple countries and inspiring future generations of athletes. Sadly, Jacques Neuville passed away in April 2019 at 72 years old. But his legacy lives on among fans, historians, and athletes who chased not just size, but the art behind bodybuilding. He became one of those names that, even after the end of a career, keeps shaping the sport. And you, had you heard about the story of this French powerhouse? But before we jump into Jacques Neuville's peak, we need to start with 1981, the year that defined his career. That's when he won the coveted IFBB Mr. Universe title in the light heavyweight division, a trophy that separates good athletes from true legends. This victory didn't just elevate his name in Europe, it officially placed him on the world bodybuilding map. For many, that was the moment Jacques stopped being a rising star and became a global reference. That same year came another huge achievement. First place at the 1981 World Games, again in the light heavyweight division. In an event that brought together some of the best athletes on the planet, Jacques proved that his polished aesthetics, perfect symmetry, and technical mastery deserved international respect. Recognition like that wasn't common for French competitors, which makes the achievement even more impressive. But Jacques' legacy doesn't start and end in 1981. For years earlier, in 1977, he had already shown his strength in the European circuit by winning titles in both NABA and WABA, taking his class and the overall titles in both federations. Those victories solidified his reputation as one of Europe's top talents and paved the way for the global impact he would have in the years that followed. Another sign of his stature was his repeated appearances at Mr. Olympia, the most prestigious stage in professional bodybuilding. Just stepping on that stage is already a huge recognition, and Jacques competed in multiple editions, going head-to-head with the best athletes in the world. Throughout the 1980s, Jacques also appeared in several Grand Prix events across Europe, reinforcing his status as a complete, competitive, and highly respected athlete. Jacques Neuville's competitive journey really started taking shape in 1976, when his early results made it clear that something big was coming. That year, he placed second at Mr. France, an early sign that he had serious potential. Soon after, he stepped up to compete at the WBBG Pro Mr. World, finishing sixth among seasoned competitors. But it was in 1977 that Jacques truly exploded. That year became a turning point in his career when he won the NABA European Championships, both his category and the overall. And he didn't stop there. He repeated the exact same achievement at WABA, proving he wasn't just a local standout, but an athlete with total dominance across multiple federations. Very few competitors managed double victories of that level in a single season. Jacques did it. With his rise already solidified, the period between 1978 and 1981 marked Jacques' official arrival on the world stage. In 1978, he took 8th place at the IFBB World Amateur Championships, and the following year he climbed even higher, placing 4th. Each season brought growth, adjustments, and maturity. And then came 1981, his golden year, world champion at the World Amateur Championships, gold at the World Games, and finally, a victory at Mr. Universe. It was global recognition of a physique that blended aesthetics, technique, and discipline in a rare way. Starting in 1982, Jacques fully entered the professional world. His appearances at Mr. Olympia in 1982, 1983, and 1985 proved he wasn't afraid to stand alongside the best in the world. Even though he never cracked the top 5, he remained competitive on a stage where very few French athletes had ever made it. His placement didn't define his value, his presence did. Between 1986 and 1990, Jacques continued competing throughout Europe in the Grand Prix circuit, consistently stepping on stage even as the results began to drop. That persistence says a lot about who he was. He didn't compete only to win. He competed because he loved the sport. In 1990, after the GP Holland and GP Italy, he officially closed the competitive chapter of his life. Honestly, how often do you see an athlete maintain that level of longevity and dedication across nearly 15 years of competition? When you look at photos or videos of Jacques Neuville, one thing becomes instantly clear. He wasn't just a strong athlete. He was a moving piece of art. His muscles had such precise definition that they stood out even among seasoned competitors. The deep chest striations and extremely dry conditioning showed a level of physical preparation that placed him among the best of his generation, and that's not an exaggeration. His abs were another highlight. Symmetrical, sharp, and clean, they gave his physique a classic, sculpted look, the kind of shape that reminds you of ancient statues carved by hand. That blend of aesthetic lines and perfect proportions made the comparisons to Frank Zane almost unavoidable. But Jacques' aesthetic appeal wasn't limited to the static moments on stage. What really set him apart was the way he moved. His fluidity was so striking that it felt like the stage became an extension of his body. Every pose, every transition, every gesture had intention. It was the kind of performance that holds your attention even if you know nothing about bodybuilding. And speaking of performance, Jacques was recognized as one of the best posers in Europe. His natural charisma, the calculated pauses between poses, and his complete command of his own body created a show within the show. Other athletes posed, Jacques performed. If there's one thing that separates amateurs from legends, it's training intensity, and Jacques Neuville pushed that to the extreme. In an interview with Le Monde du Muscle, he revealed an incredible number. He lifted about 40 metric tons in a single training session, roughly 44 US tons. Yes, you read that right. That's the kind of intensity very few athletes on the planet can maintain, and it explains why his physique had that insane level of detail and precision. But Jacques wasn't only a disciplined athlete, he was also passionate about gym culture. In 1977, he took over the management of a gym in Alès, creating a space where he shared techniques, trained students, and helped shape new talents. That direct contact with people shows he lived bodybuilding in every dimension, not just on stage, but also behind the scenes as a trainer and mentor. Mastering advanced training techniques, Jacques used methods that combined high volume, controlled execution, and absolute focus on every rep. Nothing he did was random. Every movement had a purpose, to sculpt a detail, refine a line, reinforce symmetry. That surgical attention to his own body is what made him stand out even among Europe's top competitors at the time. A big part of that world can be seen in the DVD Mr. Universe workout and posing, a rare piece of footage that follows Jacques in his most intimate routine. In it, you see heavy workouts showing his strength and determination, but also posing sessions, pose studies, and stage adjustments. Everything that takes an athlete beyond training and turns him into a performer. It's almost like opening a window into a champion's daily life. Jacques' impact wasn't limited to the stage or his competitive resume. He also became a familiar face to anyone following the bodybuilding magazines and publications of that era. It was common to find his name in major outlets like Muscle and Fitness, Le Monde du Muscle, and Health and Strength, which helped cement his image as one of the great representatives of European bodybuilding. One of his most iconic appearances, and one that still brings a wave of nostalgia to collectors, was his presence on the cover of issue number 50 in 1984. On that cover, Jacques shared the spotlight with two absolute giants of the sport, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Frank Zane. The message couldn't have been clearer. He belonged among the best. Standing next to legends like that wasn't just a privilege. It was a statement of status during an era dominated almost entirely by American athletes. Beyond that historic issue, Jacques showed up in several other major editions, including issues 53 and 97, along with many more spread across the years. Each appearance reinforced his influence, showing that he wasn't just an athlete who won titles. He sold magazines, turned heads, and earned admiration. He had something most athletes struggle to develop: presence. That visibility helped turn him into a true European idol, someone who carried French pride into a sport where Europe was still fighting for recognition. For many fans and young athletes, Jacques was living proof that you could stand toe-to-toe with the American giants and shine among them. His image became a symbol of that resistance and that unique talent. When you look at the history of French bodybuilding, it's impossible to ignore the impact Jacques had on the generations that followed. One of the athletes most influenced by him was Francis Benfado, one of the most aesthetic physiques of the 1990s. Benfado didn't just admire Jacques. He saw him as a direct reference, someone who proved that elegance in bodybuilding could definitely have a French accent. Jacques was also part of the lineage that followed the legendary Serge Neuville, another giant of European bodybuilding. But that legacy came with challenges. The tension between Neuville and the IFBB throughout the 70s and 80s created a complicated atmosphere that affected several French athletes competing internationally. Many judging panels seemed to favor competitors from other countries, and that directly influenced athletes like Neuville, Benfado, and Pastel. That mix of flawless aesthetics and complicated context explains why Jacques is often remembered as an overlooked talent. He had the physique, the technique, and the stage presence to stand among the sport's greatest champions, but the official recognition didn't always match his true greatness. Many fans and experts argue that Jacques deserved better results, especially considering his sharp conditioning and his unique, artistic posing style. Even so, his impact never faded. He became a quiet symbol of resilience, aesthetics, and dedication. Jacques' career even crossed into the artistic world. In 1987, he appeared in the film Aria, a production made up of segments directed by renowned filmmakers. That role gave mainstream audiences a chance to discover more about this French athlete who, until then, was known mostly on competitive stages and specialized magazines. His presence on screen also reinforced what many already noticed: Jacques had natural charisma. Even without long lines or a central role, his striking look drew attention instantly. The way he moved, polished by years of posing practice, carried elegance and strength, a perfect combination for symbolic and visually driven scenes. Beyond cinema, Jacques lives on through archival footage, old documents, and posing videos still shared among collectors and old-school fans. Those materials reveal precious details: his fluidity, his body control, the way he transitioned between complex poses as if everything were effortless. Many modern athletes study those videos to understand how Jacques managed to blend aesthetics and muscular control so harmoniously. They pay attention to his breathing, timing, posture, all the elements that turned his routines into reference material. Talking about Jacques Neuville's legacy is talking about an entire chapter of French bodybuilding history. He wasn't just a talented competitor, he was a milestone. Within the old-school era, Jacques stands among the most respected and celebrated names, a symbol of a time when aesthetics, dedication, and elegance defined what it meant to be a true champion. His impeccable physique and commanding stage presence remain reference points to this day. What's most impressive is how Jacques continues to inspire athletes who weren't even born in his era. Many modern bodybuilders study his photos, his videos, and his precise posing technique to learn how to combine strength and harmony in their physiques. His career also represents the peak of French bodybuilding during the 1970s and 1980s, a time when Europe was beginning to challenge America's dominance in the sport. Jacques was living proof that talent and discipline have no borders. After going through Jacques Neuville's entire journey, it becomes obvious why he left such a deep mark on bodybuilding. His aesthetics, his discipline, his elegance, and his passion for the sport built a legacy that still lives on decades later. And now I want to know, which part of his story impressed you the most? His meteoric rise? His flawless stage performances? Or his insane level of dedication and training? If this video brought you something new or made you see bodybuilding from a different angle, make sure to hit the like button. It helps the channel reach more people who love this world as much as you do. And if you want to support the channel even more, consider becoming a member. And of course, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below telling me what you thought of the video and which athlete you'd like to see here next. Your feedback helps guide the next uploads and keeps this community alive and growing.